future of sim racing hardware, Assetto Corsa EVO, or is it EVO, and a game that we don't really care about. All that and more coming up on Traxion Control. This is the first proper episode of our monthly magazine-style video show and podcast. As ever, I'm Tom, joined by Tom and John.
Hello.
Looking forward to this show. It's packed because it's been extremely busy 4 weeks in racing games and sim racing. Before we dive into the major topics, please follow us at TraxionGG on social media and traxion.gg/Discord. You can join the debate. And we'll start with a little update and preview as to what we've been working on very recently and what we're working on right now that you'll find on the YouTube channel and the website very, very soon. We'll start with John. Really enjoyed your Richard Burns Rally video. I mean, I would say that because I work for Traxion, right? But fantastic to get that one out there. And then I believe you're working on some hardware reviews.
Yes. So, I mean, Richard Burns was a great project. Obviously, Ross did a lot of the legwork and the research there, so it was nice to turn it into a video. So hopefully you guys have watched that and are enjoying it. But yeah, now for me, it's a focus on SimUcube, actually, because we've got hold of one of their new products, which we did have a quick shot of at the Sim Racing Expo. But now we get to give it a proper run through and maybe dive into some of the details about what makes a pedal like that so special. Yeah,
we're going to come at it from a slightly different angle to the typical review. Lots of other people and excellent YouTubers have done SimUcube Active Pedal Pro reviews already. We're going to do on a slightly different angle, work in progress, we shall see. And then, Tom, you've been very busy, as ever, on the podcast trail. Misha Sharodin recently. That was a great episode.
Yeah. Misha is someone who's been in my Instagram feed for years, right? He does the Nordschleife videos where he has the passengers and you get the reactions to what's going on ahead and behind on the Nordschleife, which is always pretty dramatic. But I actually didn't, until I started doing the research for the episode, because it was only very short notice. It was an introduction we had at Sim Racing Expo, and 3 days later we were recording. Did a lot of research into what he does. Very interesting guy, very entrepreneurial, has a lot going on other than just his Instagram channel. And but the Vulcan Alpha wing and the consultancy that he's been doing with EVO, which he was thank you very much. Which he was very open about. People have said in comments loads like, you're clearly working on EVO, and he's never kind of confirmed it, but he just came out and just told us he's done a few bits on ACC previously, and now on EVO. So that was interesting to kind of learn a little bit about what that process is like. And he was just a very warm, generous, sharing person. Is one of my, obviously kind of favourites, but one of my favourite conversations that I've had on the podcast.
Every new podcast is a favourite episode.
Yes, that's it.
That's good. Correct. Though, right?
So just briefly, we should have Thomas Ronhard coming up soon as well. All being well?
Yes. So Thomas Ronhard, so we met him at Sim Racing Expo. He was racing on the TraxionGG and Gridfinder booth at the Sim Racing Expo. We had the Creator Series creators, I guess, we had 12 rigs and they were all racing together, and Thomas Ronhard was there, and at some point, I think it was Tom Brower went and like swapped his accelerator and brake pedal over at the start of the race, so we went back. Yeah, it was really good. It was really great. So obviously he's a big character in the F1 sim racing scene. There's a lot of lore, as in LORE, around him. So yeah, looking forward to getting into that and learning a little bit more about him as a person rather than kind of perhaps like his brand, if you like.
Should be good. Looking forward to that. So that's what we've been working on and what's coming up soon. I should also say that our colleagues Ross McGregor and Martin Big at Arno's the BT are working away behind the scenes as well. We've got some excellent articles coming up and maybe a retrospective of Drive Club and maybe something about the best or worst early access sim racing games that you can get at the minute, which we hope will flourish into something good in the future, but we shall see. All right, time for our first topic. And Tom, you mentioned it there. We were at the ADAC Sim Racing Expo. There's a lot of videos and articles. We're sure you're maybe sick to the back teeth of, we've reviewed the show, so we're not going to do it in a traditional sense. Mm-hmm. John made a good point in the midst of the event, right, where we're all really busy, and Tom was in 6,000 meetings, and we were writing articles and presenting videos and stuff and doing the research, speaking to people. And you came to an interesting point, I think. Can you remember what the point is?
Yeah. I kind of realised there was so much money and so much development happening in the world of sim racing hardware, and it felt like there was almost a condensing of the industry where like everyone's trying to ram into this small market space and fight for victory. And there's lots of money being spent, lots of extravagant stalls. And then when it comes to actual games, it's just not quite as extreme at the moment. So yes, there obviously was a presence for titles there for the first time properly, I would say, with obviously AC Evo, and that was a big thing we'll come on to, I'm sure. and there was a couple of things like Race Room showing off their drifting content. But generally speaking, I think the whole sim racing and racing game industry seems to be kind of waiting for Evo as this big thing, whereas in hardware, there's just a million different things going on all at once. So I feel like hardware and software are maybe a bit of a strange point where,
But there is, and I think the main point of this is that there was more than ever big investment still, even if, whether there's innovation or not, there's a load more brands on the market making higher quality equipment than ever, and also, going back to Thrustmaster, more affordable equipment than ever, and there's a whole exhibition full of it, but are there enough new and exciting games to drive the market? Because if there's if the software market is stagnant, I think that's actually gets more people in than a new type of steering wheel.
Yeah.
Well, you say software, you mean games.
Well,
because
yeah,
there was some new software with Trophy.ai bringing a AI voice coach, which Jimmy Broadbent just did a video on and has been, I would say, universally received as. I guess I would sum up the reaction as oh, actually that is quite good, because I think you hear AI now and you're like, oh, okay, AI, dull.
But I don't think those, again though, I think that kind of falls in line with hardware, right? I think you need the games to be good, and you need more progression in the gaming space for then people to be excited to go sim racing. And when you're excited to go sim racing, then you're going to invest in the hardware
It's not
and the
market
equipment.
creating,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
just market serving.
Look at the, well, I'm speaking for our analytics, right? We did a lot of very popular articles about the new hardware, and that was fantastic, really popular. I don't want to take anything away from these manufacturers, but Evo or Evo was the big hit of the show, right? It was the big buzz.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really good that a developer took that leap to be put on display publicly with a very unfinished demo, in my opinion. So more power to them.
I hope others
But
follow.
I just hope others follow, because I think that really adds an extra buzz to the event and to the industry. But we need where are those developers? They're not going to appear like magic. It's very
Well, it's like
cheap,
you go to,
very expensive to make a game.
We went to game developers conference and Gamescom, and more so Gamescom the last 2 years, and they have these big closed booths where you can get kind of 50 people in an auditorium, and you just queue up and you go and see never before seen exclusive gameplay, no filming, etc. That I kind of like to see maybe Expo doing a bit more of that, where there's 3 or 4 different games, and they're going to show off either a totally new game or a DLC pack or a new mode or whatever it is, and the only place you can see it until the release in 2 months' time is here at the Expo, and the journalists can go in on the Thursday, and that would be very cool. And you're right, marry the hardware with the software.
Yeah, I mean, where would you see the next big? Other than are we too reliant as an industry on the success of Evo? That's my concern. There's big hype for it, but all these companies making hardware and us making content, and are we all thinking, oh, this is the main one?
I think for a while it was Gran Turismo 7, and then you're thinking, right, okay, we need another big hit to come along. Forza Motorsport was pretty disappointing on most fronts. And I think
that was a big shame, actually.
Just
to dive into that, for the industry. They have the big marketing power. It's on consoles. It could have really been a thing. And I think, for the most part, while there are fans, and there's nothing wrong with liking Forza Motorsport, I think if you try some other things, you're like, oh, actually, this should have been a lot better.
Well, I played it again for the first time in months just the other day, and was really disappointed. I was like, it still feels just as pretty much as disappointed as I was when I first played it. It doesn't feel like there's been much progression. But not to get sidetracked, it was very much like, you're right, the whole industry is thinking, right, Evo's the one. But even with that, we're going to see an early access game with very limited cars and tracks on launch. And that's, I think, for some people who are maybe expecting, a big, exciting single-player, multiplayer experience from the get-go, or, modding, all these things that are coming after early access or during the phase, I don't think that's going to be a short process. I think that's going to be a long time.
We'll cover Evo in more detail later, but it's just, in this part, it's more the general concept of, there must be a lot of pressure on it. I think it could be the bellwether for the industry. But
you're forgetting about Rennsport.
Yeah, well, we'll touch upon that later as well. But the thing is, would you like to see? Well, you said already, but it would be good to have more game developers at these events.
Yes, I would love to see that. And it would be a nice kind of marrying of the different parts of the industry, because actually they were there. There was a lot of developers there.
The industry was there, but not publicly.
Got to spend some time with them, and that was great.
BMG, iRacing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a really nice feeling every year that you kind of had this kind of pilgrimage together, where you go for the party on Saturday night and have some beers with all the people that make either the products, the hardware or software that you use all year round. It is great. But talking hardware, we're going to go through like our personal highlights of the expo. What was your favourite bit of hardware at the expo, John?
I would stick with what I said in our roundup video. For me, it was the SimLab wheelbase. Obviously, there's lots of expensive motion rigs, like the Pagani Huayra R motion rig, incredible to experience. But they're just like, for me, that's just that's a bit of fun for 5 minutes. Exactly. I'm never going to have one. It's just cool. For me, the SimLab experience with the wheelbase, and the great thing about these is every wheelbase is set up differently. Everyone has a different opinion on the same thing. I just felt like I couldn't remember a time where I felt more connected to the car on the road than when I was doing that brief test on the SimLab wheelbase. So that got me excited for that. But I just think that at the end of the day, it's still a direct drive wheelbase. It still feels relatively similar to lots of other things on the market. For me, that was the most, the one thing where I thought, do you know what, I'd love to have that in the future.
But they would, well, there's a race going on right now, just to touch on SimLab. There's a race going on because unless I'm, there is a race going on. There's a 3-horse race, unless I'm forgetting a horse. There's Fanatec that is soon to have, but doesn't yet have, the Corsair rig, as in for sale as a Fanatec rig. There's SimLabs that has the rig and all the, I'm talking about companies that have the whole package, right? So you have Fanatec / Corsair that has wheels, pedals, handbrakes, and soon a rig. You have SimLab that has always done really good rigs. I have one of theirs at home. I think it's fantastic. And now they're about to bring on wheelbases, wheels. So they're going to have a full package. Electronics. And now Track Racer. Now Track Racer brought some prototypes to the expo.
Yeah, very much. So very early prototypes.
Early prototypes. So they have the rigs and now the electronics, right? So I can't think of anyone else who has all three. Assetto in 2021, I sat in a prototype rig that they have, but they still haven't released it. So SimLab, for my liking there, could be the first one to get the full shebang. You could go to the SimLab website and buy a whole rig from one place. Yeah. Is that exciting?
Not exciting, no. It's interesting though, and it makes a lot of sense because if you're affluent and you've got a big budget and you just want to go sim racing, yes, one of those, please.
Yes, yeah, one-time sim rig, please.
I think the issue, like SimLab, again, it feels like a bit of a destination brand. They've got some great stuff and it's good value, but it's still on the expensive side. They've still got a lot of work to do in terms of their shifters and things like that. They've got our push-pull rally system, some other bits and pieces, but it's very much like, we've maybe got one of those things and one of those, so you could just about put something together. I think in 2 or 3 years' time, if they maybe release a few more products, then you could be looking at it, but I still think it's going to be, it's one example of something, whereas Fanatec maybe is the best example of something that's more on the affordable side for the majority of people.
Yeah, depending on how expensive the Corsair rig is, right?
Yeah, but they've got other rig. There are, there's lots of things. They've got lots of
and
options.
also just on the Track Racer one, we've got to mention that they were prototypes, so we can't judge them, but they felt less complete in our one hands-on than SimLab, right?
Yeah, SimLab was also prototypes, but
the
way that they were
very clear on that the design of the wheelbase that you see in our video isn't the final design. People were commenting on that, but that's
interesting.
When I tried the Track Racer, I don't know if it we had issues. It wasn't set up that well, but it was on ACC and it didn't feel very. I didn't really get a great feeling from it, to be quite honest. And it was disconnecting. There was an issue with the gears, and there was a few things that just weren't spot on about it.
That's prototypes.
Yeah.
So we'll judge it properly when the final, right? And it's a busy expo, and it's 4 days into the expo. So you're right that they're doing the full thing. You can buy a Track Racer monitor and headset even, so they're doing it more than anyone else. Mm-hmm. So that was interesting.
So your favourite bit of hardware?
Well, it was probably the SimLab stuff, right? But I think just to reiterate our video, which people can watch, that I liked the VPG Mustang wheel, even though it was £2,000, completely unrealistic. That was the best piece of hardware I enjoyed. Is it the best for everybody? Absolutely not.
Yeah, the other thing we should say as well is there was a lot going on at the expo. Like we were running around like headless chickens. If you'd have seen us over the weekend, you would know that. We were just running around, but we still didn't see everything. I know that Samagic had some interesting stuff I would have loved to have seen.
Yeah, we should touch upon VRS, which we didn't see.
Also,
VRS has a wheelbase that you buy, and then if you want more torque, you buy a code from them, and you put that code somehow into it, and then it goes more torque. So everybody has the same physical motor. The same motor is up to 25 newton meters, but you buy it as like a 10 or a 12. So that's I'd love to see that hands-on and investigate more, but that was just a bit weird.
As a business model, that's baffling because presumably that means their margins are different based on what you buy.
Correct.
So if you buy,
But they
you
make one
spend
part, I
less
suppose.
for the lower end. Yeah, maybe they make their money back
On the economies of scale.
through the economies of scale of just having one model going through the factory rather than 3. That's very interesting.
Slightly different, but similar. I think in the early Tesla Model 3 production issues, everyone had heated seats built in, but you didn't.
Right.
You optioned if it had it or not.
Yeah.
And then the software unlocked it if you paid the money. So maybe it's something like that. It's an intriguing thing that I'd like to see more of. But anyway, yourself.
Well, I think down the same lines as yourself, Tom, in that this is not necessarily the best product for everyone, but the one that I came away thinking, ooh, that one could tempt me, was the Cube Controls Mercedes-AMG eSports wheel.
Lovely.
Now, we're talking about significant steps up. Wheels are wheels, right? Different buttons, and the eSports aliens will be spitting feathers at that, right? There's all sorts of ergonomics that need to be thought. But the AMG eSports wheel, for me, was the most comfortable wheel I've ever used. Like, I don't know if I just have weird hands, but sometimes it just gets
They
uncomfortable.
did talk a lot about the grips being designed specifically.
And I can
then
tell
it
that
actually worked.
It actually worked. That was the marketing, and it was, and you kind of do a full lock, and it was comfortable, and all the buttons were reachable. I love it. I've got an Aztec Forte Formula rim, and I love it. But to get to the funky switches, or they can't call them funky switches, whatever they
Kinky
call them.
switches.
Kinky.
Yeah, kinky switches.
That is what they call them.
Acertec calls it a kinky switch.
Okay.
That face was
the kinky switches. To thumb the kinky switches is tough, right? you have to come out. Whereas on this one it was just beautiful. It was just so well thought out, clearly done by esports drivers as opposed to real world
Well,
drivers.
we were speaking to the test driver. It was an esports driver, and he was talking us through all the decisions, and everything had a reason, right? The shape of the grips to be able to hold on in a tight corner, the button layout, every single thing was completely purposeful for esports, which is a different approach, right?
I just instantly clicked with it and thought, oh, I think it's like £1,000, maybe even more, but that would be my destination rim now. But all of this, the team, the best ever 24 hours in terms of viewer numbers, website visits, and we are now
Totally worth it.
painfully close to having 1 million views on the YouTube channel within the last 28-day period. Obviously, the
I think we
expo
probably
being
have,
big,
yeah.
we're probably about there now for the. So it was worth it. We'd have been a bit furious if at the end of that we'd had 2 videos that come out with 5K views each, but we put 5 videos out over the weekend. It was great. It was really good fun. It felt very high energy. It was very. I had to sleep for a week when we got back.
Yeah, I had an emotional moment when I looked at the traffic figures and the viewing numbers there, which is not all about that, but it certainly helps, doesn't it?
Tom cried.
Yeah, but it was well worth it. Great to spend it with you both. And before we get a bit too cheesy, we'll move on to the next topic.
Yes.
I think, which is our sort of automotive adjacent culture section.
We need a jingle
We need a
for
name
this.
and a jingle for this because automotive adjacent culture segment.
That's got a ring to it.
It will be one of those that comes across the screen with like hyphens between each word. Automotive
I'd like to see that,
adjacent.
Ozzy, in the edit, please.
AACS. Okay.
AACS.
Just making sure. Yeah.
It's time for AACS.
AACS. Another week.
Yeah, and in the previous one we talked about the final Grand Tour episode. This time we're going to talk about road cars because in about 10 years ago or so-ish, there was the so-called Holy Trinity, which was the Porsche 918, the Ferrari, and LaFerrari, and the McLaren P1. And they've all gone on in history as, fated supercars or hypercars. Maybe they invented the hypercar category. They're all worth a lot of money now if you want to buy one. But 10 years later, and I think Ferrari started this trend, every 10 years Ferrari has a new hypercar. So there was the F40, then 10 years later the F50, then the F60 was called the Enzo, then the LaFerrari, and then now F80. We're going back to the different nomenclature again. And McLaren, within a week, has also revealed the W1. So, before we go any further, let's have a look at the W1. I hope you've all seen this. This is the pinnacle of McLaren's range. Instant thoughts, Tom. Did you like it or not?
It's the only one out of 3 I like.
Ooh.
So there's my controversial opinion. I dislike the others, but we'll get to those too.
Yeah.
I love this car. This is quintessential McLaren. The design language in this, you instantly know that it's a McLaren on steroids. I love the retractable spoiler at the back. Everything about this car, I absolutely love. I mean, it's following on from some pretty stiff competition, but it just looks stunning. I love it. It's my favorite. Yes, if this, I mean, you know what? They even have Android Auto, which
Oh, did they in this one? That's actually a good. I do love that.
Yes.
Oh, that is a big step forward for McLaren there. I mean, that's worth the 2.1 million alone, right?
well, I mean, it would be annoying if you spent 2.1 million and you
it
had
didn't.
to.
Well, the
imagine
previous ones didn't.
2.1 million. You got to put one of those like little cassettes in with the antenna, and then you have the radio attachment to your
or
phone.
a little suction cup for your phone for the sat nav, in the corner of the windscreen.
The gull wings, and it's just. I mean, honestly, right. So when we have car conversations, every time we have a AACS conversation, I am going.
I'm glad you remembered it because I
Yes,
hadn't.
I am unashamedly going to be the aesthetics guy because I don't get super excited about engines in road cars because you can drive them up to 70 miles an hour without feeling like a bit of a tit on the motorway when you're speeding. So
Unless you're in Germany.
unless you're in Germany, right? So I just think for a road car, unless you're fortunate enough to go and take it out on the track, for me it's all about the aesthetics. So that will be my focus rather than the numbers and the brake horsepower and the V6 versus V8, which I know we're going to get
Yeah,
to.
that's what I'm going to talk about.
which I know is what we're going to get
I'm
to.
the
So
opposite.
I'm going to be the aesthetics guy here, and I'm going to say that the McLaren is
Okay.
far and away my favourite.
Well, looks are subjective. We should just quickly say that this has all been sold out. So even if you had 2.1 million, they're going to make 399 of them. They're all gone, supposedly. Over 1,200 horsepower. It's rear-wheel drive only, and 0 to 62 in 2.7 seconds, which seems a bit irrelevant in the age of electric cars.
And also it's rear-wheel
more-
drive, and its rivals are four-wheel drive.
Yes, so this is more about, I think when they talk about more about track performance and lap time, which, so...
And it corners better than a Senna, apparently. It's quicker than a
Does it
Senna
really?
around the circuit. So
Oh, right,
that's
okay.
saying something.
well, that's really good buying advice there. If you want to
Yeah, yeah. If you want to go faster around a track, don't buy a Senna. In fact, don't buy the W1 because it's pointless, because it's a road car, and hypercars are all pointless. Because if you want to go fast around a circuit, buy a race car.
Yeah, well, this is the point, right? You could get a GT3 race car if you want to go on a track. McLaren does do the 720S GTX, which is GT3 without BOP.
there is one of those with a grid finder livery. Fun
Exactly.
fact.
This is why I mentioned it. So, if you want a track day toy, but this is both track and
Yeah,
looking,
of course.
looking cool in the Beverly Hills, I presume.
I
or Saudi Arabia.
So the P1 from the Holy Trinity, that was the one for me by far. I actually, controversially perhaps, think the LaFerrari is ugly, and I didn't like it. Right? A lot
Of
of
those
people
three, I
liked
agree.
it.
I think the P1
So,
is aged very well. Frank Stevenson
Controversial
design.
opinion, but I think in terms of looks, yes, this is gorgeous. I don't think it has the same effect on me as the P1 did when it first came out. But I actually think, and you're gonna probably disagree hugely, the F80, which we'll get to in a second, I'm sure, the Ferrari, is boxy and ugly, but I think it's beautiful because
Well,
of that.
let's go on to it. Oh, interesting. So
That's
here is
the
the
Group
Ferrari
C.
F80,
It's a Group C car, but it's
which
road
I
legal.
think is hideous.
Right.
It looks like Lego.
Right. I think it looks ugly and hideous, therefore it's beautiful because it's purposeful. It's built and designed to be a track monster, to be fast, to be efficient.
Okay.
It is a Group C car for the road. If you look at it from the front, it's flat. It's got flat shoulders all the way back. I completely get anyone who says it's ugly, but for me, because of that, I much prefer it to the LaFerrari.
You get one seat with this car. One
Well,
seat.
no,
kind
that's
of.
not true. There's another seat, it just doesn't move.
Oh, okay. It's the one plus
One movable seat.
one movable seat. Which
Okay, also-
I'm fairly sure that Skoda you can get two movable seats at the in the front.
I said it was hideous there, but I think from the rear it's spectacular.
I think the wheels are horrible. That's one thing. Change the wheels.
It's this weird bit here.
Spoiler looks like a Ford's.
It's this weird box arch
Yeah.
flat thing, which I don't really understand. Anyway, Ferrari, so the McLaren, are you ready for this, right? So the McLaren is 2.1 million, and the Ferrari is
3 million.
double.
Double.
Well, it's
4.2.
nearly double. It's 3.9
3.9.
in dollars. Sorry. Well,
And you get
dollars.
one seat.
Yeah. But also, so it's double the price nearly, but they're making twice as many. So the McLaren is 399 and the Ferrari is 799. So the McLaren, I think, will be potentially more special in the future. Have either of you heard this car on a track? So there was a track day thing where they did demo, like a day
No,
after
but
the reveal.
it's a V6, isn't it?
So this is a V6. I'll do an impression if you've not heard of it. It goes like this.
So it's blowing your nose.
It was
Yeah.
in the rain, but it goes past the shot and it goes.
Ugly.
So I'm sorry. For me, a hypercar should make some sort of noise.
Yeah, that was the one thing with the LaFerrari. Right?
And
So-
it's a V6 because, Formula 1 and Le Mans. But Formula 1 has a 1.6 litre V6. This is not that. I'm sorry, it's not the same engine as the Le Mans car, even though they claim it. So to me, I'm more excited by the failed Mercedes AMG Project 1. I don't know if you've seen this one.
Yes, the F1
Yes.
engined.
That's actually an F1 engine. And this is Ferrari pretending it's an F1 engine, and I don't like that.
I also don't think it has Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Looking at the configurator, it says connectivity
Sorry, John.
for smartphone.
But you know,
Not
I'm
interested.
mocking it, but it's
Not
going to be amazing.
interested.
It's going to be amazing.
The Porsche is weird though, because the Porsche also is
Let's just
purposeful.
quickly talk about this. This is the Mission X, which is only a concept right now. It's rumoured to be believed coming out at around the same time, but it's all electric. Now, all electric cars are wonderful. Two of us here own them, but I was intrigued by a quote by Mate Rimac or Rimac, right, who make the Nevera, which is a $2 million, $3 million electric hypercar, right, and they can't sell them. And I'm told if you want to, or I heard somewhere, if you want a Lotus Evija, which is also another one, you can have as many as you want. So I'm intrigued as to will Porsche manage to sell these, basically. Anyway, I digress. We should say that which game or simulator, Tom, do you think that these will appear in first?
Well, Gran Turismo would be my guess. Specifically the Porsche.
Probably, yes.
Because with you, obviously they've done something similar in the past.
Yeah, they've got that Vision Gran Turismo thing as well.
And if I think people wouldn't want these cars in game to test ahead of buying it. It's about dreaming the brand, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
And so it's what Porsche have been doing for 20 years, putting their brands into games. And so if that is your strategy, which it will be with these cars, it's a totally different strategy to Hyundai, because people can buy those, right? Whereas here it's about dreaming it, and so you want to hit as many people as possible. So we know that Hyundai will be in AC EVO, so people can test it and take it around the Nordschleife and be like, oh, well, this drives really well, maybe I'll buy one. Whereas here you just want as many people as possible to grind through the game to own one in the game, exactly. Right? So I would say Gran Turismo would be my guess.
Forza Horizon 6. That's going to be the big launch for all these cars. I think.
You're both wrong, unfortunately, because they're going to appear in a mobile game first. It'll be CSR Racing, Asphalt, Rail Racing 3. They always get the Koenigsegg's and the.
Is that a prediction or is that a fact?
No, it's a prediction.
And you're no, you're 100% right because
it's going to be some mobile game.
It definitely will. If you enjoy watching sim racing content on YouTube or just general gaming videos, perhaps you want to have a go at creating some for yourself. This is where Elgato steps in. It has an incredible range of streaming and video production products like capture cards, webcams, microphones, cam links, green screens, anything you can think of that's going to help you with your video production and streaming, Elgato probably has a product. Just make sure you check out the affiliate link down in the description below. By doing so, you'll be able to buy those products, and also Traxion will get a little bit of assistance and support from that as well.
On to the community question and answer section. And this month's segment is about Assetto Corsa EVO, and we might say Evo.
Absolutely not, Tom.
No, well, you did in a podcast several times the other day. So
yeah, I know I did, yeah.
But the official term is EVO. Marco Massaruto from Kunos says they very specifically asked us to, can you say EVO? However, we will slip into EVO, and I'm sure in a year from now, everyone will
EVO
say
sounds incredibly
Evo.
Unnatural, but we're going to do it because Kunos have asked us to try it. But
exactly.
That doesn't mean that we think EVO is going to kill anyone, because it's not.
So we asked you, the Traxion community, recently what you wanted to see more of with the Assetto Corsa EVO, because there is a lot of information out there already, but there are also a lot of unknowns. So it's more a discussion of what people and what we would like to see more from it, rather than our impressions, because we have many of those available for you to watch and read already. And then we're also going to go through some of these, because I think some of the messages haven't been clear. So we're also answering some of these questions, right, to say, actually, that's available or that's not available. So we're going to start with... well, by the way, we didn't use all of them. There was a great number of responses, thank you very much. But these encapsulate what many repetitive comments were saying, right? So the first one by John Wood 7283, in this instance, thank you for your comment here. VR support and multiplayer safety racing. So we'll tick off VR support from the start. I mean, yeah, we know it's happening, but we don't know, is it going to use foveated rendering and what's it look like in the VR, right? So rest assured, John, it's going to have VR from day one in early access. We'll have to look at the quality of it in January.
And a bespoke game engine as well, so that's always going to throw up some weird stuff.
Exactly, but it hopefully should be better than Unreal for VR, because that's pretty hopeless. So the second point of their comment here, though, is multiplayer safety rating. So ACC and Assetto Corsa didn't have that natively. You had to go to a third party to provider.
ACC had a safety rating.
It has a driving license safety rating thing.
And you'd only be able to get in certain lobbies if you were over 75 or whatever.
But that was also over the single player stuff as well, although you could turn it on and off. And I think maybe, and there are other questions about this, because another person has said a multiplayer ecosystem to rival iRacing. And then another person says, I'm going to parrot this from another comment, but it has to be a safety rating system of some type.
That's from Moktoff Topher and Captain Shu.
Thank you very much. Well pronounced, because as we learned from last episode, I'm incapable of doing that. But it sounds like that all of this is included, right?
Yes, I would be very, very surprised if this isn't included. But I would say that I think Kunos have made it very clear that what they're building is a platform upon which they can build for the next 10 years. Yep. So I would expect, my guess is that we're going to have limited cars and tracks to start with, but we're going to have an ecosystem that everything else can be built on. So I would expect this sort of stuff to be coming out sooner rather than later, and then it will be car and track packs that come out down the line, right? Yeah. So, and they've already said that they want this to be the final destination for racing. So they're not going to bring out a drifting game in 5 years' time. They're going to add drifting to Evo, right? They're not going to do a drag racing game in 2 years' time. They're going to add it to Evo. They're not. So the idea is that you just build upon this platform forever. So it's almost like the game engine for their future racing games sits on Evo, and then they build on it. So I would expect things like the VR support, multiplayer safety rating to all be done first, and then they build content on top of it. That's my guess.
We shall find out. The key thing we need to mention about the multiplayer safety racing. So it has been confirmed unequivocally that there'll be daily races, which in order to that term, which I think it's popularised by Gran Turismo, actually, that's what they call it first. Yeah. Although other platforms like iRacing invented the whole system around that with driver ratings and safety ratings. In order to do daily racing, I think you do need a proper ranking system, so therefore it's good to have it. But it's not by Kunos.
No. Well,
this is the key thing.
Yes, no, it's not. So it's going to be built by Speed Capital, who also make SimGrid. They are building as far as I understand from the stage show, they are building the portal, which will be Kunos' own portal, but it's built by them.
Yeah.
So they are building it for Kunos, so Kunos can focus on the content, the cars, the physics, the foveated rendering, etc. Yeah. So that is my understanding. So I would absolutely expect all of this stuff to be in the game, and I would expect that it's going to be kind of running in parallel. But I think they're going to work on the foundations first, right? As you would expect, and it feels like we're about to get into the whole early access conversation and how long that's going to be, but we can get to that.
Yeah. Oh, for me, it'll be a simple, basic daily races style system on day one, and nothing like an iRacing full multiplayer system, but maybe in the future. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Me and John, we were there at the panel, and afterwards we had a conversation with a couple of, let's say, third-party community service platforms. There are many of those that are very popular, especially with ACC, who were at the announcement very, very concerned. We should also say we're a sister company with Gridfinder, and there was obvious concerns there that actually, is it all going to go to SimGrid? But it's, from what Kunos was saying, is no, actually all communities and other third parties can use it. It's just that we're focused on making these games and these physics and these graphics, and we've just paid for some assistance to make the online infrastructure. So I thought that was something that was completely buried in the hubbub of free roam and cars. And no, there is going to be, for the first time, I think, hopefully, whether or not it's rolled out or from day one, a proper native in the game. As a user, it doesn't matter who's made it, you're in the game and there's some racing. So that should be good. The next question, though, is career mode, car customization, and free roam. Andreas Moller. So a lot there. Touch upon it slightly. What were you going to say?
I have a question. Yeah. Because this is a confession. I only read the headline of this Traxion story, and I usually read the whole story. What is the difference between free roam and open world?
Good question. Myself and Ross McGregor, who wrote the article recently, just to clarify, it was no big breaking news story. It was just to say, hey, we've seen a lot of videos online and headlines saying, oh, open world, and I heard a couple of podcasts saying, oh, I'm a bit worried about Evo because it's open world. Now, that might prove to be wrong, but the difference is this, in my opinion, and you might disagree with me or agree. Open world is you boot into that one world, and you drive to your missions, and all you see a map, and you have icons, and they're like challenges and levels, and the career mode all is encapsulated within the world. Free roam is an area within a game that you can load into and drive around, right? Doesn't necessarily mean, there might be some things to do in there, we don't know that, but generally speaking, there'll be a menu with a career over here,
Yes.
and you choose a track there, or you can go to this open world area.
So
Free roam area. I got it wrong at the end.
So in a practical sense, then, if it was open world, the idea is that you would go into your single player world, and there would
Like
be
Forza
like a whole world map minimized down, and you would drive. Right, I'm going to drive from, I don't know, Castellet to Monza. And I'm going to actually do the drive, but it's kind of like symbolic of what that drive might look like, but it's obviously condensed down into like a 5-6 minute drive between those two places.
Yes.
And then when I get to the track, I
There's
then
a
load into a
challenge,
race,
a mission.
or whatever. Whereas free roam there is a list of the Nordschleife area or the wherever area, and I load in and I can drive around and there's traffic and stuff, but I can't drive between one and the other. It's not a world, it's just little portions of.
Correct.
It's almost like a mode rather than a map.
And that's what we think Evo is.
Which?
Right?
Roam or world?
Free roam.
Free roam.
World would be really cool though, wouldn't it?
World would be cool, but I think it would potentially frustrate
Changes
some
the
sim
game.
racers.
Yeah, changes the whole nature of
With
the game.
mods in AC, it's the free roam model is you choose from a list, don't you, and you boot in.
You can have an open world experience within a free roam map as well. Like,
True,
this is the
which
thing.
blurs the lines.
Yeah.
So Andreas Moller also mentions here career mode. Would you like to see a career mode in a serious focused sim racing game or not?
100% yes for me. Because I've always been a fan of career mode based racing games. I think they're a fun way to get into it. I think if a lot of games you play when you're younger and you don't start with online, you kind of start getting your feet wet and getting up to speed, and then eventually if you're enjoying it or you're good at it, you might find the online modes and find lots of joy. I just think an immersive career mode is such an important part of a racing game, and the fact that it's more serious than simmy, perfect. That just blends two great things together. So, but maybe that's definitely an opinion. Not everyone agrees with that, but I'm always a fan of an immersive career mode within a racing game. So I would love to see that, and I think the customization elements, that's definitely going to be part of.
Well, we'll touch upon that in a second. But yeah, it's a good point. I would like to see it as well. I don't know if you would. Because a lot of sim racing is just sandbox. I remember speaking to, I won't name him, but a popular sim racing and real world commentator who was just having a go once about, forget about all the career modes, that's for is it a politically correct word to say wimps anymore? I don't know. But that's for not serious sim racers. Or you just need a car and a track and it's all about the hot lapping.
Who says wimp in 2020?
I don't know where that word
tell
came
me who
from.
that was after.
No,
That's
I was
interesting.
that word came to my head. That was not verbatim.
Oh, okay. So you say wimp in 2024.
Well, oh dear, this has gone downhill.
So my initial instincts was, yes, of course you need a single player because that's where the immersion comes from, the story, and that's where I learn a lot about how racing works through these games. I learned how F1 works through the game rather than watching it, right? But then I was thinking back to other games that I play, like Call of Duty, for example. I don't think I've ever completed a single campaign of Call of Duty.
You see, I buy them for the campaign.
You go straight to... right,
most people are multiplayer.
And I think, contrary to what I've just said, so this is why I'm really undecided, I'm on the fence, is it could be a generational thing. I think we grew up on the Nintendo where you play a single-player campaign. Everything is a campaign, and that's it. And multiplayer, if you were lucky enough to have the internet, it probably wasn't good enough to have any sort of meaningful multiplayer. This is our habit. Whereas people growing up with multiplayer and 1 gigabyte broadband from the day they start gaming, they probably just go straight to the multiplayer.
Headset on, ranking up a level,
and it's about speaking to people and making friends and your Discord and blah, blah, blah. So I expect this is probably a split in the market. But this is where I'll come back to Evo being a platform. Is my prediction is that it will start with no campaign, no single player, very few licensed series. It will just be whatever it is, the 20 cars and 5 tracks or whatever, and they work on all of the infrastructure. And then they have a roadmap that 2026 is we're going to see, I don't know, SRO is going to come back from, maybe not SRO because they've already done it in ACC, but maybe IMSA, for example, and then they're going to bring in Formula E, and then they're going to bring in whatever. Are they going to pick up all these licenses and do British touring cars, and all these ones that we wanted, and they're going to mount on a campaign with a car pack. So you buy the car pack. This is just a random prediction, but I just think...
Certainly those licenses won't happen, but I know what you're saying.
But you know what I mean, right? As in, you will. I think that is the whole point of the platform, is that they're like, right, let's do a really immersive single-player campaign that has an element of engineering and team management involved. They could build it on Evo rather than building something total, and you pay 15 quid for a game within Evo rather than having to keep buying new games. That is, from listening to that panel, that is what I think they're doing.
Interesting. Well, we'll have to find out over the coming years, weeks, months, who knows.
Years.
You mentioned briefly there that 5 cars and 20 tracks. That was stems from a quote Marco said on our Traxion podcast episode, quick plug, where he said, we don't know for sure what it will launch with, but he said no fewer than 20 cars and 5 tracks. So it could be 100 of each, but it probably isn't.
That would be very impressive.
No, yes. Speaking of customization, though, Danny Juicer mentioned that he would like to know more about like different wardrobes, suits, gloves, shoes, helmets. Can you create your own helmet design, accessories on the cars, emotes for driving? We know for sure that the different wardrobe thing is an element. In the teaser trailer, there was some specific shots, I think, of feet
and road driving without gloves on, things like that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And also,
is that something that is interesting, though?
I mean, for some people, not
for Danny
not
Juicer.
for me. Well,
Shout out.
It's kind of interesting, but you've also got the manufacturers that make these things all as part
Yeah,
of
well,
the sponsorship.
in the description of the trailer for the game, it said, thanks to our
Partners or
partners, or like the special ones, and listed a few, and one of them was Sparko. Like,
right. So that
and another one was Bell Helmets.
it's not going to be a car.
So, do either of you care about drift in particular? Because, no, I'm not going to pronounce that.
Schleiton.
Yeah, go on, yeah. Did say they would like one car for drifting. Now, please. So,
Why one car?
well, here's
At
the thing.
least one, right?
I think this is a great comment because, first of all, it's rare to see someone on the internet say please.
Yes.
So, thank you very much there. Yeah. And then one car is not like a lofty ambition, right? It's just, I just need something to drift because the first Assetto Corsa is still used, especially by modders, with perhaps, let's say, non-licensed content, controversial, but a big-ish, we think, drifting scene. If you want some licensed content, Race Room's coming out next year with some, we know that. But yeah, nothing so far from Evo, that provisional car list screams sideways.
To me, that's not the priority, so they'll get to it, and I think they will. They did with the Assetto Corsa, although that was different in that lots of cars came at once. But for me, it's cool to have a drift car and something that you can get sideways in for a bit of fun, but it's not my thing. The problem is, though, I know that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people that love Assetto Corsa that will love drifting, as long as it does what Assetto Corsa with mods could do. I'm not convinced that it'll do that, at the start at least.
I think it would be cool to have some single-seater cars.
Yes, I do too. And I think they've kind of hinted at that. But in classic Traxion Control fashion, I'm going to disagree with John. Because I think if you look at all the big new features that they've kind of pushed towards us since the release, if you go onto Assetto Corsa, if you go onto Content Manager on Assetto Corsa, and you take out filters for what you've got downloaded, and you filter by most active drivers, and you go down the list, you'll find Nordschleife, traffic, and drifting at the top of those servers.
So
and we know that Nordschleife,
in.
we know that Nordschleife is there. We know that traffic is there. If they haven't cottoned on to the fact that drifting is the other one that is super popular and has been for 15 years, I'll eat my hat. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of those cars at launch was drifting.
Because then you could drift in a free roam setting and all these things.
I was just going to say, the free run drifting, it's popular.
I completely get that there are that many people interested in drifting, which is why I think it's a sticky point if they don't manage to nail it. Because I'm not concerned.
They've got to get it right.
You're right in that they'll know that, right? They'll know their own clientele to a degree, but they're not necessarily in control of that because a lot of it's modding based. So my worry is that they are aware of that. They can't do much about it. Maybe they can bring in a drift car, maybe a drift venue. But the problem is you can have all these people from Assetto Corsa that might stick with Assetto Corsa because it's easy, because the mods are available, and they don't need to be certified. So I'm worried about that, to be honest.
But Kunos has all that IP. They have all that IP. You know, Kunos, they're having all of these approved mods. Like it would, if they were like, right, we want a good mod car and a good mod track to bring into AC Evo, and it's not necessarily their speciality because they've done sports car racing, Formula racing. It would be the easiest thing in the world to go to these modders and be like, right, we want one of these into Evo. You guys make it amazing. We'll put it we'll get the license and put it in the game.
This is not touched upon at this point here, but we should really briefly mention that yes, modding is happening. It's going to be after early access, and they're going to have a more stringent process of only some sort of approval process. How that's going to work, goodness only knows. And there's all the mods for the first set of course, they don't just work in Evo because it's a different game engine. It's a technical issue, but there's going to be some sort of tools we think to transition or start again. And modding is really big for open world stuff and drifting. So you hit the nail on the head there, I think. So that's great. We'll see what happens. Another popular thing you can do, certainly in ACC, correct me if I'm wrong, is multi-class AI racing. You can definitely do like GT3s versus GT2s if you wanted, and then endurance races with GT4 field and stuff like this, right? They haven't talked about that at all. So we've actually driven Porsche racing cars on track, and there's a GT2 car driving around the Nordschleife in the trailer, but Dodge, something or other, 33. Now, I think that's a Welsh phrase at the end, but I'm not going to pronounce it. So, sorry to anybody who's in Wales.
That's Welsh for Wales. Dodge 33 Simru, but I don't think it's pronounced Simru.
No,
is
so
it?
Dodge 33 Wales. Show me AI multiclass if you want any chance of me buying it. So,
I mean,
are you on board with that?
Yes, but with a game like this, with so many road cars, multi-class is
interesting.
already, to me, just absolutely nailed on, because you can't have a class of just road cars. There's going to be some sort of split there. Assetto Corsa had a kind of tag system rather than a class system, but you could choose you can customize everything. You could be like, oh, I want 6 Ferrari, FXXs, and I want 2 old Lotus, and I want a Fiat 500 for a laugh. You could do all of that, and I think when you've got a game with so many different vehicles, there's got to be something like that. It's not just going to be random, and it's also clearly not just going to be one category. So it goes without saying for me.
Well, so here's a fun one. Which cars from the AC base game do you most want to see in AC Evo?
Well, the Formula 1 cars.
I'm gonna go the Crossbow.
Oh, really?
Because I loved
seeing the suspension move.
Loved driving that car on any track. It's so much fun. It's quite hard to master.
Yes,
but it's
quite spiky mid-engine.
Brilliant, but it's different.
For me, it's the old GT cars, like the 80s, 90s GT cars.
So we'll rattle through a few of these to finish off. Someone was mentioning that we haven't seen like the pit stops, or the pit crew yet.
That's cool.
It's a good point, actually, because I think we don't know, actually, fuel usage of tyre wear is going to be even there early access, right?
No, and that's so difficult, because we
important
really
thing.
don't know yet a lot of things about this.
Damage model, when I crashed, I didn't see any.
I drove perfectly, so I couldn't possibly tell.
Oh, yeah.
No,
I rolled an Alpine on Bathurst, right? But I don't think it was damaged.
I was too focused on everything else when I was actually trying it. I didn't even think of the damage model.
Well, it wasn't there for me.
Well, you fell through the track, didn't you?
Well, yeah, we should say it was pre-alpha.
Yes.
And also, one thing we need to mention is, in all the hands-on impressions you've seen, we couldn't change the assists at all. And in the front-wheel drive Hyundai around Brands Hatch, the traction control being forced on was a bit of a shame, because you'd initiate a slide by lifting off. When you want to plant the throttle to spin the wheels up to bring the front round again, you couldn't, because the traction control would kill the power, right? And we couldn't see any menus or UI or fiddle with any settings. Understandable. It's a build specifically for a show with a mass public. But we don't know about the damage per se. We haven't seen pit stops because we couldn't do anything there. And then they've mentioned championship modes, but also related to that is another comment about online historical championships. I'm tired of the same GT3 stuff in every sim. Here we go. I'd love to see some things like some 70s or 60s, 70s Formula 1 cars, good revival races. I think that would be really cool.
But this is a classic. You've got the Evo platform, and halfway through 2026, they bring out, they launch for 15, even £20, they bring out the historical pack, and you get 30 historical cars and 2 different campaigns that you can play, and you do Goodwood. And I see. Basically, the answer to all these questions, in my opinion, based on what I think Evo is yes. This is the Unreal Engine of sim racing, right? That's what. But better, or hopefully better, right? But this is what this is, right? This is something that they can build on and build on and build on, and maybe even have other studios come and be like, right, we want to do something in dirt oval, or we want to do monster trucks, and like, great, build it on Evo.
Right, okay.
That's my that might be a bit out there, but that's my prediction.
The monster trucks, definitely. But I agree with what you're saying in terms of, especially if you involve the modding scene.
My concern with all of this, though, is just like we all want so many different things, and there's so much to go on. With it not being a hardcore dedicated sim, with having a bit of free roam, race cars, road cars, historics, we all want everything all at once, and a career mode and an online ranking system and everything. I just see this being, I see there being so many things that we all want soon, not coming for a long, long time. And that slightly concerns me.
Okay, so just really quickly, final 2 points to finish off, because the modding thing could be a rabbit hole. But there was a really good historic mods for R Factor 1, right, back in the day and stuff. And
brilliant,
That could evoke that, couldn't it? Yeah. A few people, actually quite a lot of people, I only put 2 examples here, asking about PSVR 2 support. The only, probably, let's say, proper racing game that supports PSVR 2 still to the day is Gran Turismo 7. I think that's a crying shame. It's a really wonderful bit of hardware. It now works on PC with an adapter. I would love this to be possible. I'm skeptical, but when we can, we will ask that question. Apologies, we didn't ask it before. And then Misha Sharudin, our friend, or Tom's friend from the recent podcast, said he wants a tiramisu pickup time trial. I don't know what that is. Is it just some sort of time trial thing?
Do you know what's kind of funny?
The dessert.
Well, so the tiramisu thing is funny. So half my family is Italian. I speak a little bit of Italian, but tiramisu, the dessert, is actually 3 words. Tirare is the verb to pick up, me, and su up. Right. So tiramisu means pick me up because it's got coffee in it. Right. So the dessert is a pick me up, and that's as much as I know. I can't go any further than that, but I don't really know what a tiramisu time trial is.
But if the free roaming environment is somewhere that Misha knows sells tiramisu, and there's a time trial challenge to go collect that might be an interesting thing. We should probably end this segment here.
Kunos. Ask Kunos.
Yes. So our final segment, and I'm afraid this is just me having a rant, but I think you might join in. And that is, I really want the sim racing industry to succeed. And looping back to our first topic, is there enough software and development that's exciting to justify all the hardware manufacturers? And we kind of felt like maybe there isn't at the minute. One of them that could be that is Rennsport. But I'm getting fed up. I'm really getting a bit bored and fed up about the lack of progress. I'm not saying there aren't a lot of people working diligently and really hard on it. I don't know the full politics behind it. I don't know why it's taking so long. But I just can't help but thinking, we're 2.5, we're coming up to, I think May next year will be 3 years since the initial sort of reveal event that I visited for Traxion back in the day. And basically none of those promises have happened. Not properly.
We were both already feeling a bit frustrated with it over a year ago now.
Second event we went to in Munich, because we sort of said, I remember we ended that video with something like, oh, well, it all sounds good, but it has to be actually made.
Yeah. And where is it? Like, I mean,
it's on Steam now, apparently.
We're getting something. So it's now on Steam. We've got the game is now in early. It's not in early access yet. It's gone from alpha to beta. No, it's gone from closed beta to open beta. So It's still not in early access yet.
So if you go on the Steam page, it says early access game, but you actually don't buy it as early access yet. That's next stage. You click opt into a program, and then you get accepted. So basically, they're going to do closed beta, open beta, then early access, and then a game. So the question is, will it arrive before 2028?
And what will it be?
And what's the point?
Right, so this is what I was going to say.
Because you go home and play iRacing.
Yes.
And this is readily available for free in a not finished state, but it's not. I don't think it's appealing enough.
I don't know what Rennsport is.
Yes.
I don't know why it is. It's a load of GT3 cars that we've already seen. A load of
some of the non-GT3s we should quickly mention.
Okay, yes, but by and large, it's GT3 cars, and there's some tracks that we've all seen before. We could go and play these cars and tracks on iRacing, or ACC,
or AC mods,
right? So all of the content already exists, and so there has to be some kind of underlying theme, foundation, concept that is unique to Rennsport that makes me go, right, I'm going to try this game that I haven't tried before. And they had one,
yes,
but then they backed out of it. Almost immediately, they said, well, it's about digital ownership, and you own your car, and you build up like a history of your car, and then you could trade, and your cars could have trophies and all this sort of stuff. And I thought, obviously there was a load of negative response because people were like, we don't want NFTs and crypto, blah, blah, blah. But I think I don't actually think that's what they meant by it. They were like, it's digital ownership of this car. This car exists as an asset, as a key number, or whatever you call it, and then you can move that car around, right? I thought that was kind of a cool idea. I thought the idea of having the car's history is quite a cool idea, but then they backed out of that totally, and what they were left with was just another game with cars and tracks that we've already seen. Other than this recent AC mod
it's already available in AC.
It's an AC mod, that's now in Rennsport. And the thing is, I don't like being...
This is Cresta... I'm not the full name, but
yes,
it's called Cresta.
Swiss Alps Circuit.
Swiss Alps Circuit by New Drop.
But my thoughts are, I don't like being negative. I don't like being negative even if it's justified.
No, Traxion generally isn't, but we're constructive.
I just don't like being negative in general, but I am really, really struggling to find why I should care about this game. It's also strange that everything seems to be outsourced. I don't get the same sense of passion that I get when you meet the Kunos guys. They are car people inside out. They absolutely love it. So I'm just struggling to there is no sense of passion that's like, right, they're mad about this within this game, so I'm gonna go see what that's about.
I see passion from certain people within it that are really excited to get people into the next updates, and I see the passion on that side. I think it's a small. I think it's a small team though, and I think that maybe they're trying to make it seem like a big thing and a big team. But I think it's there's big things around it. But I just think that the team isn't that big. So obviously there's a lot of outsourcing goes on, and then you don't really get to know what it truly is. I don't know if they've parked the digital ownership thing, or if it's just not happening yet. No. It's we've not seen any of it, right?
Competed in some events, because there are online races happening in Rennsport, and there is a small community that is playing there, so I don't want to take away from them. And there were some competitions and some events, and if you download the app and did something or signed up first,
I have the app, yeah.
They still have the even system, that's what they call it.
Right.
And so there are unique versions somewhere within there, but it's not prevalent. There's no swapping or switching.
Not yet.
Or there's no
incentive. But when will it?
You know what, right? I think we kind of went into this rant about Rennsport, which is totally justified, I think. However, I'm tonight going to go home, reinstall it, and give it a go.
On Steam or Epic?
On Steam. And I'm going to see what's going on there and see if I enjoy it and work out, like, you know, maybe am I missing something? Are there glimmers, shadows, hints of something in this game that's going to be totally different? They also had this pre-Evo window in which to come in with a new idea, a new product, 3 years to smash it and be like, whoa, Rennsport's this thing, and they've got ESL R1, and oh my god, that's totally gone. As soon as Evo comes out, they could bring out their next patch. Their most recent one was the AC mod, Aston Martin Vantage GT3 and Hockenheim Night Mode. It's going to take more than that to drag eyes away from AC Evo.
On two of those things, one, you're right. A lot of the things that have been promised over the years that still haven't been delivered yet are now going to be in Evo, right? So like stuff like approved modding and like, you know, that all sounded great, but we still haven't seen it, and yet here comes AC Evo that could beat it to it. Essentially, we have seen some mods, so it does exist, but it's not in any way an ecosystem yet. It's just a couple of tracks and a couple of cars.
I feel like the people working on it would be really upset and annoyed that we're it's yet another thing bagging on us. It's not that we don't want it to succeed.
It's that we do.
It's that we do. It's just not happening yet, and it's not quick. Like 2022. I also think an element of strangeness is I think they went all in when they were planning this in 2020, 2021 on the sim racing esports scene, which was massively inflated by COVID. And it is not as strong as it was. And the viewing numbers for ESL R1, from what I've seen on YouTube, in the moment watching some of the rounds is abysmal, really. You know, iRacing events are way more popular, and they sort of pinned a lot of hopes on that, rather than making the game, perhaps.
Well, they seem to be, you know, apparently it looks like they're growing. I'm just looking at their jobs tab on the Rennsport.gg website, and at the moment they've got 5 open positions: senior back-end engineer, technical artist, engine programmer, gameplay programmer, and tools programmer. So they're not slowing down. They've got cash from somewhere. They've got ambition to do something. So I'm trying to remain excited. I just think we could they could do a better job of telling us what's the why.
The second point I was going to make on what you said before as well, you were saying you were going to jump on it tonight and try it. So I've been through this process very recently, multiple times. So
tried the new
I first of all drove this game in Poland, and it was actually feeling pretty good. I was like, do you know what? It doesn't feel like it's there yet with the big sims, but I feel the potential. It feels like a bit of RF2 in there, a bit of racer, you know, it felt like a bit of things. Can I just say, then years later, I think it feels no better, if anything, arguably worse than my first experience at the, and that's like, it's personal opinion. Everyone might disagree, but every time I've jumped back on it, we did a video not too long ago about the new evolution of beta, and I thought the cars are still inconsistent. Some of them do feel good, some of them don't. Some of the tracks feel good, some of them just feel wrong. And then when I played it again very recently for the Swiss mods, the Swiss Alps mod and the Aston Martin, I just wasn't getting a good feeling through it. And it's as simple as that. Nothing about it made me go, oh, I want to drive this sim. I want to do lap after lap after lap. I want to find lap time. I just want to see the track. Oh, that's really cool. I don't want to play it again.
I just can't help but think, and I could be very wrong, and please, Rennsport, reach out and tell me that we're wrong, right? But it feels like they went, right, here's what all these other sims do. We're going to do all those, but better and better because it's in the Unreal Engine. And that that doesn't work for me. You mentioned it feels a bit like R-Factor 2. That's a controversial thing because there's a whole public debate as well over, they've said to us on record in a previous podcast episode, yes, it's new physics from the ground up that we made ourselves, and that was a lie.
Yeah.
Or, there's a version of the truth out there somewhere, which is, we were planning on making our original physics, but now there's nothing wrong with using ISI motor. Right, well, there isn't anything wrong with it, but it's not what you said, and that's what's wrong. Yeah. So there's a lack of trust there as well.
Yeah.
A lack of trust.
And, picking on something you said there, if you happen to be listening and you're from Rennsport, please let's chat. Let's find out what we're missing.
Yeah.
And so that we can understand it. And maybe there's something around the corner that's going to be like, oh, that's what this is about. Finally, oh God, I wish we'd known that before. Like, it all makes sense now. Like, it'd be really great to do that and then support it, because as you said, like we want sim racing to succeed, and so the more games, the better. And I think the frustration here is that Rennsport had so much hype and so much positivity, and it's going to be this, it's going to be that, it's going to be amazing. We were like, brilliant, fantastic, it looks great, the brand is cool, blah, 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 blah.
Too long.
But it's now taken so long, we just need that, tell us what we're missing.
And final point here, they have said to us that there's going to be a noticeable update in December. And so we'll try again. We're always open to trying it again.
We want it to succeed.
We do want all sim racing developers to succeed, right? We've not touched upon Motorsport games being for sale on this episode, right? But we want Le Mans Ultimate to be finished and proper. That'll be nice if that happens in 2025. It'd be nice if Rennsport's in a better place in 2025. Then there'll be Evo and Project Motor Racing. So it could be an amazing year. But for me, Le Mans Ultimate and Rennsport are really flagging or struggling. They've got their own things. And Rennsport specifically, at the minute, it's really harsh, but I don't care. And on that note, that is, on a positive note there, that is the end of Traxion Control for this particular month. So thank you very much for watching if you're on YouTube. Let us know in the comments below some questions for next month's episode. So you can ask us your questions. We'll also put a community post up on the YouTube channel and on social media at the time. Don't forget to join our Discord, which is
Traxion.gg/Discord.
Yeah, and follow us on social media, which is at
Traxion.gg
No,
or TraxionGG.
it's just TraxionGG.
Depends on which social media. I'll get it next time.
Yeah, no worries. But also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and a subscription. Sorry, John, put you under pressure there. That was unplanned. And on Spotify as well, a nice little 5 stars. And if you're listening on there, I've already said subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. We already know this. And we've got lots of exciting things coming soon, so follow the website and the YouTube channel every single day. We've got you covered in terms of racing games and sim racing.